Hello and welcome to episode 355 of Virgo and the Freak. I'm the bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And joining me as always is the glorious League Freak. You can also find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going pretty well. How are you, Andrew?
Oh, not too bad for an away fan.
Well, I wondered why there were so few of you turning up.
Yeah, I couldn't make it because, I was in another country.
All right. You know what? I find it very weird that people that live in France don't want to travel to places like Wakefield and Salford and, spend their holidays in places like that. It's kind of weird of them, don't you think?
No, look, it is a bit odd.
Mm.
We'll elaborate on this. Apparently there's been a fair bit of whinging.
Yes.
By the English.
That's strange, isn't it?
There.
Yeah.
Because they're worried that the having two teams from another country participating in the Super League is not going to help the English teams who are struggling to draw crowds. It's going to make it harder for them to draw crowds because the French teams will not be bringing many fans over.
Yeah, anytime you can add the fourth largest city to the Super League competition, it can only be a negative thing.
Well, I mean, we learnt this with Toronto, didn't we?
Exactly. You don't want millions of people that can potentially follow the comp.
We just need everyone who goes to their local parish church to be committed to turning up and watching their team play, on a bunch of deck chairs. Look, we don't need 1,500 of them. It'd be nice to get 1,500. We don't need 1,500 of them. There's only about probably 30 deck chairs.
All we need is, look, the Super League supporter base, there's a few key things you need. First of all, you need to be bald by the time you're 23. Second of all, you need to own like 15 different flat caps. You need to race whippets in your spare time. And you need to remember the good old days when there were speedway tracks around some of the stadiums. They were the good old days when there was a speedway track.
A lot of the French venues, especially in the good old days in French Rugby League, they were on velodromes.
Yeah, but you know how you say the good old days, right? And you're talking about the past.
Yeah.
Well, that's what a big chunk of Super League fans want today.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I'm talking about, there are similarities between the good old days of English Rugby League and French Rugby League.
Yeah.
Like both were really, really strong about 60 years ago.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, France were the world's best team, arguably, in the 50s,
100%.
Probably even in the early 60s.
It's very strange. When you look at the way that NRL supporters are looking at this second Brisbane team, and I don't think I've heard too many criticisms of there being a second Brisbane team from supporters. Like, it seems to be really generally positive. And then you see, can you imagine if they brought in Toulouse into the NRL, how excited everyone would be?
Oh, it'd be fucking amazing.
Yeah. And
get another country involved.
Exactly, and all there was whinging, and I was really surprised by it. I don't know.
I mean, we've already got 3 countries representing in Australia at the moment, as it is in the NRL. We've got Australia, New Zealand, and Mexico.
Yeah, that's true. One of them is a totalitarian state as well, which is kind of weird to have them in the competition.
The totalitarian dictatorship, Ian.
Yeah, Dictator Dan. See, you got fined for breaking his own rules.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, that's great. Don't you just love it when politicians set laws that they'll put you in jail for and then they don't abide by them?
And then don't go to jail for them?
No, it's fine. It was just for them, it's always just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. He's only had us in lockdown since, when did time begin? Was that 3 days after time began? Anyways.
Some people north of the Murray think that then people in Victoria aren't locked down hard enough, quite honestly. But yeah, It's going to be interesting to see how they go in Super League. I they've got a pretty good team. Like, they play some pretty good football. And I was saying, I hope that because they will look to recruit players, but I hope when they look to recruit some players, they don't look at old NRL players or any English players. I hope that they look at sort of New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup level up and comers who might be looking for a chance and will be, because there's been no football for like nearly 2 years at that level. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do to their squad.
Yeah, I think they've been pretty good, both the French teams, at, getting a lot of local players. And when I say local, I mean French. Both sides have got a lot of French players in their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing. And I'm hoping Toulouse stays in Super League for quite a while, because I think having 2 French teams in there is going to do wonders for their national side. And we can only hope their national side decides to play plenty of international football against teams that aren't British.
Yes.
To help make them better. And I can't wait for the day that Catalan plays Toulouse in the grand final in the Super League.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Challenge Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Make it the same year. And I wouldn't give a shit who won. Because Rugby League would be the winner on that day.
It would be, yeah. I was just hoping to say that the best teams in English Rugby League were French. Unfortunately, Catalan fell a little bit short. That Super League grand final, I only saw the second half. It was the worst game of football I've seen all year by a very long way. Poorly refereed. The defence was tragic for both teams. The tactics for both teams were really poor. James Maloney really stood out, dominating the attack for the Dragons, but just a really, really hard game to watch. And I don't know how anybody could have really enjoyed watching that game as a neutral supporter anyway.
It was a tough one to sit through. I know a lot of English fans, and this is being serious, they're probably thinking it was a pretty good game because it was close, which, that's probably about the only reason why they thought it was a good game. I thought the attack for both sides was much worse than the defence. St Helens' defence was very much able to lift at the precise moments that they needed to. And that was the only real difference, because there was times there in the last, say, 20, 15 minutes, whenever Catalan got the ball, you would just see the St Helens edge defenders just rush up and swarm the ball player, especially if it was a playmaker, and just shut down their outside options and just trap them with the ball. And Catalan had like 3 or 4 sets there where they were only making 15, 20 metres and then they had to kick. So I think the attack in the Super League, in the past, it used to be pretty. It was a combination of the attack being reasonably good and defences being woeful.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think it's kind of switched a little bit the other way. I think the attacks have now got worse and defence has got a little bit better over there than what it used to be. And so the good teams tend to be able to strangle opposition sides a lot more easily. Which is in the past, they used to just outscore them. You just see a lot of scorelines of 64-30 or something like that. Now you'll see teams winning, 52 blot.
Yeah, so I thought that the 10 metres in the Super League grand final was atrocious.
It was non-existent.
Yeah, it was really, really bad.
Especially at a marker. The 2 markers were just flying up every time.
Like, there were tackles that markers were making where they were standing next to the guy playing the ball. It was incredible. And you saw the big difference in how clean the game was in the championship final. It was 1,000 times better to watch than the Super League grand final. Like, I actually really enjoyed the championship final just because it was a better game. And Toulouse was fantastic. And their attack was great. Their defence was great. They were the better team by quite some way. But Featherston, they weren't bad. They tried really hard through the entire game. And, they got a bit of ball. They were able to do something with it because there was 10-metre rules were enforced. In the Super League game, it was just it was really, you're not going to get people watching that for very long. And that's a real concern.
I think I saw one crazy penalty against Sam Tompkins where he had his head was caught between a defender's knees, and the defender was just gripping really tight with his knees to stop him from getting his head free. And Tompkins was trying to play the ball, and he got penalised.
You know what? I remember seeing the aftermath of that penalty, but I had looked away as that had happened. I just remember Tompkins really being like, what the fuck just happened? That I turned it on just as I was seeing Lachlan Coote try and knock a ball back in field, and he basically stepped over the sideline and was a good 5 meters out and tapped the ball in field. And the touch judge, you can see the touch judge looking at the fucking ball in the air. It's like he's not looking at his feet at all. It's a really bad call.
It's not like Coote's that tall either, so you wouldn't have too far to look. You'd get all that in one frame.
Yeah, exactly. It was a terrible call, but you put that down to, it happens. The other big call in the game was obviously the 10 in the bin for Mackinson, the greatest winger in rugby league, I guess, in 30 years, if you go by the idiots that give out the Golden Boot Award. And it was pretty hilarious seeing St Helens fans trying to justify, number one, why it wasn't really a high tackle, even though he basically almost took the Catalans player's head off, and then why it shouldn't have been 10 in the bin. And then I saw some people saying that it should have been a penalty try. Now, I personally would have found it really difficult to give it a penalty try because it was 5 meters out. Yeah. And as I explained to some people online, over here, you basically, it's almost as though they've got to be able to say, look, if he had have died on the spot, he would have still fallen over and scored a try technically, so then we'll give it a penalty try. You kind of have to do no more physical effort and beat anyone to give that penalty try. So I don't think I could have given him that. But if they had given it a penalty try at the same time, I would have said, look, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I could have given it a penalty try. But then again, I'm a little bit more stingy with penalty tries. I think too many of them get awarded as it is. So.
Oh, do you? I like seeing them awarded. I think it's a really good incentive to stop players from doing illegal acts. But
that's fair enough. But when you see somewhere a player gets awarded a penalty try when they're chasing a grubber and they get tackled, say, in the in goal before they've got to the ball, I can't give that a penalty try. You don't know where that ball's going to bounce if they're not impacted. And you don't know if they're going to take it cleanly. I think the only time a penalty try should be awarded is if the player who's impacted has the ball in their hands and they've got control of it at the time of the incident.
Oh, see, I disagree. I am the ones where, say, the players are chasing the ball down in goal and, say, the attacking player gets taken out or tackled or whatever. Let's say tackled before he gets a chance to get his hands to the ball and he would have got there first. I am very happy for that to be a penalty try. I think that's the basis of where you start with a penalty try.
No.
We're supposed to argue now?
Yeah. I'll just make it clear. I'm not going to be swayed on this. We'll just...
Yeah. If this was Twitter, we'd both be calling each other Nazis within about 10 seconds.
Oh, shit,
because it's real life, we'll go, fair enough.
Yeah, if it was Twitter, I probably would have said something along the lines of you being a fucking idiot or something like that. And I'm sure you would have parried with something very similar.
I've had so many people since the Panthers have won the grand final and then talking about the Super League grand final on the weekend. I'll be talking flat out about football and they will start to really try and get personal with you. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, you weirdo?
It's cowardly and very much the tactic of someone who's lost the argument before it's begun. So just get personal. Because all they're doing there is they're saying, right, I know I've lost this argument, so now I'm just going to be personal and make shitty remarks and attack personally.
Yeah.
And we're no longer talking about football, but I'm trying to create a new argument that I can win.
It was very strange.
And you can't argue with someone when the topic is their opinion of you. Like, you can't win that argument.
No. And the weird one was, like, I had so many St Helens fans sending me, like, still pictures of Mackinson, first of all, before he got to the tackle, and they were saying that the Dragons player was falling down into the tackle, like insinuating that he was trying to get a head-high tackle done against him because he knew he wasn't getting to the line. And then the first contact being just the shoulder, which it was. The first time he hit his shoulder. But then he hit him in the head and held onto his head and neck as he wrapped around it and almost took his head off. But they weren't showing that part. I did have one follower of mine send a picture of that. I've got to find out who it is because everyone else was sending pictures saying, look, he didn't even hit his head. It's like, show the next frame, you idiot. That's what you've got to show. I've got to find this person because they here it is. It was Mike Hool on Twitter. And, he shows him coat hanging him.
Yeah. I had no real issue with that. It's funny how people respond when it comes to their team and rose-coloured glasses. I've never been someone to be like that. So I always find it fascinating how people see the same thing differently depending on what jumper they're wearing.
Well, it made me think about the reactions to the Panthers and the people we talked about in the last episode that have been really sad about it. And I was thinking tonight, I don't think any of them were South fans.
Nah, South fans, I think, were quite accepting of everything that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was...
And then I was also thinking about my reaction to last year's grand final loss to the Storm. And I didn't say anything negative about the Storm. I mean, the reasons why, and my go-to was always you can't give up 10 points in penalties and beat the Storm in basically any game, let alone a grand final.
That's right.
And outside of that, anything else that happens in the game, like, shut up about it because you gave away 10 points in penalties.
Yeah, I mean, you shot yourself in the foot at the very outset, and I think you can see that Penrith learned from that because they made sure they got on the scoreboard very early in this game, in the grand final.
Yeah.
They've always been a side, and, the last 2 years have been dominating. They've always been the side that performs at their best when they lead from in front very early in the game. I mean, it's hard to lead from behind.
True. Very true. As I heard,
bit of Laurie Daly merged with a bit of Braithen Astor there.
It's like I remember a former NFL quarterback called Trent Dilfer, and there's a funny clip of him online, and he's on one of those panel shows now, the NFL, how they've got like 27 people on their panel.
Oh, yes.
And he says, you cannot win in the NFL. No, you cannot lose in the NFL and still win. That was his quote. It's like, what the fuck?
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
In other news,
yes,
the Redcliffe Dolphins are almost officially the next team.
They're unofficially the favoured one by the NRL, apparently. I don't know how that works, and I saw some news today where it said the Brisbane Jets consortium had secured a big sponsorship from a billionaire backer. Now, I don't know who the billionaire backer is, but I saw one of the journos saying, why did they wait this late? And all I could think of was, it's pretty good that you can get any backing for an NRL club that doesn't exist yet. Like, there are plenty of NRL clubs that would like that backing now for clubs they've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll wait and see what happens with all of that. I don't know if they think that the Dolphins are the team they want to give the license to. I don't know what they're waiting for. They should just, put everyone else out of their misery and let the Dolphins get on with building their club for the 2023 season.
Yeah, I can't help but think that the Dolphins bid started to get up when NRL games were played at Redcliffe, and commentators started to wank themselves silly over the fact, oh, you can have a Palmer at the bar over the ground and watch it. It'd be fucking great. You have a beer and a Palmer and watch the footy. And I just went, okay. Looks like they've had their bit. And then sure enough, you just see Redcliffe getting more and more favoured. Oh,
I'm not shocked by it because you see a lot of people in the mainstream media in Australia who are completely disconnected from reality. And then when they actually are put in the reality that they've had opinions of for forever, then they're like, you know what? They're not a bunch of country bumpkins. These are actual people. This isn't a bad experience. Of course, they're all sociopaths. They're just observing what normal human beings do and thinking, wow, wouldn't that be great if I had emotions and feelings and empathy? But, it probably didn't hurt them. But the thing that I think has got them over the line, the Dolphins, is that they own assets. And I think that those assets the NRL looks at and says, look, they've got the assets that can be sold off if they get in trouble.
Which assets are these?
I think that it's like land and stuff like that.
They own land.
Yeah, it's
See, there's a current NRL team that owns quite a bit of assets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've always gone well, haven't they?
Yeah, financially they've been really, really strong. It's always been a great idea.
I was actually looking at the stats you put up last week about who had about the winning percentages of each club decade by decade.
Oh, yes.
And it was absolutely shocking to see how bad the Cronulla Sharks were in their first decade. Like you and me have talked about how bad the Panthers were. The Sharks were worse, which is hard to imagine.
Yeah, I think, though, the problem that they may have had, and I've got to look into this a bit further, obviously, but I think the problem they may have had in that first decade, well, not even the first decade, the first sort of 4 or 5 years that they were around, just before 72, 73, and they finally got into the finals, they were competing with a lot of teams for the same sort of area. So they had to break off from the St George area. They also had Newtown and South, all on that south side of, from about the airport down. And the whole Wollongong region had its own competition at the time, so they couldn't really tap into that. And then they formed their own team, obviously, with Illawarra in '82. So even if they had got in there, they would have lost it anyway. They were just always just kind of in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And too much competition for players.
And you've got the Dragons, who were just a giant club at the time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with all that success that they had too. Because you've got to realise too, I think from the very early 40s through to like 78 or 79, the Dragons missed the finals like twice.
Yeah, there would have been players that would have probably rather played in the Dragons reserve grade team for some of those years than the Sharks first grade team. Because if you crack that Dragons side, you're a pretty good chance of winning a grand final. Like even as you say, their worst years, they were pretty close.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they just sort of had too much competition for players. They'd done reasonably well in the lower grades prior to getting their own NRL side, which is what helped them get over the line and get picked in the first place. But yeah, back then it was a big step up. Yeah, Penrith though, they had a lot of area to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they struggled to get talent to the club. Because, I mean, obviously back in the 60s, probably felt like you were driving to Orange when you had to go and play Penrith.
For some players it would have, yeah. Look, I can still remember when Panthers Leagues Club, you would go there and it was like this giant facility and there was nothing around it really. Like it wasn't. Now you go there and they've got the indoor skydiving and they've got giant car parks and, there's buildings and stuff around it, but it used to just be the Giant Leagues Club itself. And so it's, I can see where, and like their ground was nothing like it is now. Like the ground was pretty basic.
It took a long time to upgrade that ground. Even in the 80s and early 90s, it was still pretty poor.
It's weird how, like, you think about all of the upgrades to grounds we've seen in the NRL. I think Penrith stands, considering the Panthers ground is very much part of the old school of grounds now. And obviously I'm not talking about places like Leichhardt and stuff like that, which are, archaeology, I guess we're getting into with that sort of stuff. But like it's the old sort of grounds where you got the two stands either side and basically the hills. But it still kind of weirdly holds up as an experience. But they're going to get a new ground soon anyway, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. So it's Redcliffe looks like they could be the next team in. I mean, if the NRL is smart and they want this to work, they need to just make a decision, before the end of this week and just let Redcliffe get ready and get started. If it's not going to be Redcliffe, then, if it's the Brisbane Jets, let them know.
Yeah.
If they've got a billionaire sponsor of Waiting in the Wings, that they're going to need to know what the hell's going on. And if you take too long, they might leave. And next thing you know, you might end up with two very weak bids instead of two very strong ones.
Yeah, the other thing I think too is that you would allow the Brisbane Jets bid, which seems to have always been a longer term bid than, say, the Firehawks bid, especially. You let them start to plan for maybe 10 years' time,
Yeah.
Because they're the Ipswich Jets at its base. So it's not like they disappear as an entity. They're still playing in the Queensland Cup. They just get another chance to get all their ducks in a row for expansion down the track. I have to say, with this Brisbane decision, I am leaning towards more and more the next expansion just being you bring in the PNG Queensland Cup side, because I think that's pretty straightforward.
I'd love nothing more than that. Because, that's just got so much upside, so little downside.
Yeah, now that they've proven that it's a commercial entity that can be in an Australian competition and there's no problems there, because the talent thing is not a problem. I think it would, if they said we're going to bring that team in 2024, they don't really have too much to do.
Nah, get sponsors. That's it.
Yeah.
Because they'd probably even just be willing to go entirely with local talent.
Yeah.
Which would be just brilliant as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Because, when you've got the fan base they have, you're not going to want to have people from other teams there. You're just going to want, popping your Guinean players in there. And that fan base will cheer them home hard every game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
But I tell you what, now that we've got Brisbane sorted for this second team, the next expansion is a real expansion, which is pretty cool. And it's good to finally get to this point, I guess, where the NRL is in that position where now it really is. It's the second New Zealand team. It's PNG, it's Perth or Adelaide, and there's no other choices now.
That's right. And that has to happen that way.
And
I don't think they should wait a huge amount of time either. Like, we're going to have an odd number of teams, and that's not something that most comps like. So if they were smart, they'd say, you know what, we're going to introduce a 18th team in 6 years' time.
Well, you know what? I had a message from Stone Gozzard on Twitter, and he was in Twitter jail, so he couldn't put it on his main Twitter, and he was messaging me. And he was talking about how there'll be, he had this idea where, for the Magic weekend, how everyone plays another team. Well, we're going to have a team that has to have a bye for that weekend now, right?
Yep.
He said, what if that extra team, and it could be anyone. It does, like the two Brisbane sides will probably play one another, whatever. But what if that extra game, that spare team, ended up being the World Club Challenge?
Ooh,
Yeah. How good an idea is that?
that's not a bad one.
Yeah. So say you had you could even kick off the season with Magic Weekend in that sense. And yeah, that extra game is the World Club Challenge. That would be bloody amazing, I reckon.
Yeah. I'd be keen to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I can tell you as a Panthers fan, I have zero interest in the Panthers playing in the World Club Challenge. I'd rather them just focus on the NRL season next year, unless St Helens wants to come over, a month into our competition, and then we'll play them. But I've got zero interest in winning a trial match against them.
Even if there's a nice piece of silverware to chuck in the cupboard?
You don't chuck it straight in a cupboard. You chuck it on the floor. You chuck it in the pram. You chuck it off the back of a car. You do some things to it I can't even say or hear. You probably do it in front of a video camera. And then,
well, if you're the Panthers, you do.
Yeah. But no, I just have zero interest in it. It's of no significance, that trophy. I would rather win a pre-season match with an extended squad where both teams have 30 players they use against Parramatta.
Mate, you may as well go all the way and have your toughest challenge, and that is try and win a trial against the West Tigers.
Yeah, that's a good point. They are
the Tigers. Let's be honest. The Tigers start their season in the trials at peak form, and then it's all downhill from there.
They are the linear rugby league champions of the world.
Yeah, they've got it all asked about.
Yeah,
they sit there and they rip through the trials when no one else is giving a shit, and they've turned up going, "Yeah, this is round one." And they smash them, and you go, everyone's going, "Oh, the West Tigers, they might be something." I sit looking at going, "Yeah, I've read this book quite a few times.
Yeah,
the ending is always the same." And then they missed the finals.
You know how, you could do 10-year books on a club, every 10 years have been in existence. Imagine what having to write the last 10 years of the West Tigers is. Not one final series. How the fuck do you even write that?
You don't.
Yeah, you just give up. You retire.
Let's go. We've written a book on every decade that the Tigers made the finals. How come there's only one? Yeah, well.
I actually started putting together a couple of lists. I'll tell you about them after the podcast because I don't want to spoil them. I was putting together some lists and some really interesting ones. And I was going to put together a best West Tigers, just West Tigers only team. And I had to stop. I couldn't do it.
You could probably come up with a reasonable 13. But, reasonable. Reasonable is the word.
You know what was hurting me the most? It was okay, well, Jared McCracken didn't play too long for them, but he's undoubtedly the best second rower they've had.
Well, that's the thing too. Do you pick them based on their form at the West Tigers or how good they were at their peak?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's two different players.
Well, I
looked at Terry Hill.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I looked at the wingers, right? Taniela Tuiaki. He has to be there, 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
Didn't play that for very long, but undoubtedly the most damaging winger they've had. And then who's their next best winger?
Lottie Takuri. He had 2 good seasons there.
I know.
But that's about it.
That upset me the most. Because, if you're saying, is it him? Or do you go with someone that was there for longer? Or somebody that won the grand final with them? It's it's bad choices. It's rough.
It's hard work. I'll give you that. What's they got? Pat Richards?
See what I mean?
Hey, I went with Pat Richards before I said Bo Ryan.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like Bo Ryan's in the running.
Korobidi?
Yeah. He wasn't there for very long, though, was he?
16 games.
Yeah. Still, it was a good 16 games he played for him.
12 tries.
And then, like, fullback, I would have gone...
Josh Addo-Carr's at the Tigers too.
Yeah, how many games did he play for them?
9 on the wing.
There you go.
Jordan Rankin. Luke Cavell.
Oh.
Hassan Saleh.
Getting
Jason Moody.
Jason Moody. He was so finished before he even got there.
And then after he retired, we got him back out of retirement again.
Oh, that's right.
Matt Utai.
Yeah, Matt Utai. That's a rough one too. Far out. See what I mean? It was just sad.
That is sad. Oh man, just wait until you get to halfback.
Well, it's not only
it's Scott Prince, and that's it, isn't it?
Scott Prince, right?
Yeah.
And then Benji, obviously at 5'8", Robbie Farah at hooker. But then, like, who was the best front rower in Tigers history?
Oh, it'd be between
John Skandalis.
Yeah, Skandalis and Galloway probably.
Yeah.
Galloway was not really convincing.
No.
Aaron Woods, Bryce Gibbs.
Like, who's been their best centre?
Yeah. That's another tricky one. Probably Chris Lawrence. I'd have to have him there.
Yeah, Chris Lawrence. Paul Fatuira was not bad.
Yeah. That's probably it.
Yeah, and that's why I stopped doing it, because I was like, it's got to be a best team that'd probably make the finals, you know.
You didn't want to walk away from doing this one and go, I just feel sad.
Yeah, it's like the best teams. You put them together and normally you're like, oh, the glory days, aren't they wonderful?
Yeah, like usually every single player is a test player.
Yeah.
The Tigers don't have test players. Not for Australia, anyway. There's not many of them. And if they are, they used to play for Australia.
Seriously, if you weren't a West Tigers fan, people would say we are the most anti-West Tigers podcast that's ever existed.
It's kind of like when you get someone who justifies making racist jokes by saying, "Oh, but I'm from that race."
Yeah.
I'm the same. So they're going, "Yeah, I'm allowed to shit on the West Tigers. I'm one of their fans."
Oh shit! At least it's a new era now. You don't have to worry about the past.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll see. I'm waiting for the next new era announcement.
Yeah. I reckon it'll happen 6 weeks. It'll happen 6 weeks into the comp when they fire Maguire.
That was 8 weeks, wasn't it? They said 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
no, he said not that we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. He wasn't prompted to say any number, but he's pulled 6 to 8 weeks out of his hat.
Yeah.
Oh, let that one slip. The Tigers signed Tyrone Peachy. We've mentioned that one before, but another Titans player has left, and they've gone to the Raiders, and that's Jamal Fogarty. I saw that one in the news the other day.
Yeah, that one. Look, they needed a halfback, and they've got a halfback. He'll be the best halfback they've had for a very long time. And so, it's not the worst signing. They just needed anyone that knew how to control a footy team. So, and he can definitely do that at his best. I thought he didn't play great for the Titans in the second half of the season, but it is literally better than what they've got at the Raiders.
He kept getting dicked around, though, with halves options because they never settled on a 5/8 for him.
That's a good point, yeah.
He kept getting mixed up, and so he's constantly starting all over again every week.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get to have that regular beside him. So it was a bit of a weird thing they did that. And then they did lose a little bit of momentum because of it.
I saw there were some Raiders fans on Twitter, and only a few of them, and they were saying how they were a little bit concerned that the new Brisbane team would be a problem for them in terms of them targeting Raiders players. And all I could think of was, like, they don't have to worry about that.
I'm surprised they still do that because, I mean, Canberra genuinely were, taking a lot of their talent from Queensland back in the 80s and early 90s.
Mm.
But then they moved to, trying to get players from Auckland in the mid-90s.
Mm-hmm.
And they've since realigned that focus, and they're focusing on trying to get players from England.
Mm.
They haven't looked at Queensland genuinely for talent for a long time. So I don't think the new Queensland team is going to be much of an impact on them.
No, and like if I was looking at the Raiders team, how many of those players would you look at and honestly be, if you're the new Brisbane team, how many of them would you say, we would love that guy?
Papali.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Nickel Clogstad, maybe if you got him at a good price and his injuries settle down next year. That's it, really.
There's not a great deal there.
No.
They've got to change a lot about how they play the game if they're going to be competitive under these rules. Because at the moment, they bulked up a lot for the 2020 season, and then the rules all changed for them and got more anti-Canberra, the rules, for 2021, and they just struggled
really
hard.
Yeah. That between that and them not recruiting anyone, I think that they said, we'll bulk up a little bit and we're happy with what we've got, and it was basically the completely wrong choice.
Yeah, by a long way, because they just made their team slower, and so much reliance was put on, bench players.
Mm-hmm.
But they filled their bench with more big men.
Yeah.
So they were just kind of, and obviously they put all their eggs in the George Williams basket as well, which didn't work out for him.
Nah, he wanted to go back to wherever the fuck he come from, which was good. Good, better for them long term anyway.
He did quite go back to where he come from.
Well, Warrington, Wigan.
Yeah, he came from Wigan, went back to Warrington.
And you stand in the middle of the town, they both smell the same.
Smells like pie.
Oh, shit. Well, it's been a good episode, Andrew.
It has. I take it we covered everything?
Yeah, pretty much. Got a special guest coming up tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
We'll probably put that one up. We might put it up on the night or the following day. We'll see.
I still don't know who the fuck this special guest is. So
it's none of your business.
None of my business. Only people who've done 350 of the podcast get to know about that.
Exactly. Maybe if you turned up a few more times.
I was just phoning it in half the time.
just lazy.
So, come do a podcast and go, nah, you do it.
I refuse to turn up more than 350 times every 2 years. By the way, if anyone wants to see how many steps Andrew has done in 12 days, go to the Twitter, our podcast Twitter. I retweeted it from there. Ridiculous.
Yeah, been a bit busy.
Yeah.
I'll post I'll reply to it and put on there the total number of steps I've done in the last 12 months as well.
Yeah, do that. That'd be cool.
Just to blow everyone's mind. I might even find the thing on the app which shows the graphic for the weekly breakdown.
It'd be really interesting when the little one starts to walk. And I know it's a little while now, but get him a little Fitbit and just see how many kilometres he covers a day.
I don't know if he'd cover many kilometres, but I reckon he'd have a lot of steps.
Yeah, like how the babies do them funny steps.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious to see. Although when you put the height in, I wonder if it lets you put in like that short of a height.
Yeah, and the other one is the stride length.
Yes.
So I'd probably put stride length 2 inches.
Yeah, that's It's all up and down leg movements for the most part.
Every time he falls over, oh, look, there's another 4 steps.
Yeah.
I'll come over and have a look. He's going, wow, you've done 37,000 steps.
What if you put on, you know how on say, the Apple Watches, they have fall detection? Imagine if you looked at it and realised your baby was falling over like 27 times a day. It'd freak you out.
Oh, fuck, I have to put a helmet on him.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll see if I can work that in somehow.
Yeah, just let your wife know we decided to experiment with a baby on the podcast.
Yeah, we're just going to put a GPS tracker on him.
Yeah, she'll love it. She'll think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I can't see it happening now.
Oh, far out.
Maybe I should put down a cat.
Ooh, can you imagine? Your cat's an indoor cat, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, see if it was an outdoor cat, that would be really weird.
Well, I'd want to have a GPS tracker if it was outdoors.
Yeah.
It's got a weird cat.
Imagine if you've got a half line. Imagine if you put a GPS tracker on it and you realised it was like every night going off to a wildlife sanctuary and coming back in the morning.
Happily fed.
Yeah, you just see it every morning, like licking its paws, thinking, man, he's pretty content this morning.
Yeah, is that a kangaroo? Okay. I don't want to know. Just hide it in the bushes somewhere.
How big of an animal do you reckon your cat could kill? Definitely kill a small kangaroo.
I reckon it'd chase a small kangaroo.
Do you reckon it could kill a wallaby?
No.
Okay.
No, it's more cat than wild animal, so I don't think it's got I don't think it's equipped enough to do that. I don't think its teeth or its claws are long enough or sharp enough.
If people should go on not Twitter, on YouTube, and look up the difference between a dog bite and a wolf bite. There's a really cool video. Somebody has like a husky, and then they've got this like fucking wolf that they've brought up, and they throw both of them, say it's a bit of carrot or something, and the dog sort of snaps at it, and it's a snap. And when the wolf does, it's like a fucking cracking noise of bone. It's just teeth going crack. It's really amazing. People have to hear that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
Mm.
Wow. Now that we've given you all a bit of homework, I guess we should put this one to bed.
Yeah, it's been a good episode. Congratulations to St Helens and Toulouse.
Yes, commiserations to French Rugby League for Catalan not getting the premiership in the Super League, but God, I hope they're there again next year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. They've had a good run, so let's wait and see what they do next year, I guess.
Absolutely. As always, people, make sure you check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/LeagueFreak and Patreon.com/RLProject. Chuck a few coins our way. That would be fantastic. You can follow the podcast account on Twitter and Instagram at FergoFreakPod. This bloke's at Andrew RP. That bloke's at League Freak. We've covered every base, haven't we? That we need to.
Much, yeah.
That'll do.
If you can't find us, seriously, you got a problem.
Yeah, God, we're everywhere. I think Freaky sometimes just hangs around on street corners.
They call it loitering now. Ridiculous.
Next thing you know, they'll have laws against it. Have you still got police on every corner out there at the moment, making sure that you don't sneeze?
I don't think we do anymore, but it's weird. When I go and stand on the corner, they call it loitering, and then when I'm getting like paid money for services that I can't talk about, they call it something else. It's like I can't win.
God, they just like putting labels on people.
They really do.
You're just trying to work.
I know. I'm sick of it.
Man, fucking oppression.
It's like apartheid.
It's exactly like that.
Okay, we gotta fucking okay. I don't really mean that. It was taking the piss out of a tweet that some idiot had done, calling the lockdown laws apartheid, and they rightfully got ripped apart.
Oh wow, that's next level. That is.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Wow. But you caught me off guard with that. I'll give you that much.
You thought I'd gone crazy. You were like, "This is it. That's the end." It was good.
Wow, that's a long bow.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what this person they tweeted, like that vaccinated people and unvaccinated people couldn't do the same thing, so that was apartheid. And people just gave them a history lesson on Twitter. It was pretty fucking epic to see. It was good. So I was just taking the piss out of that.
Fancy comparing those two.
I know, right?
Oh, boy.
Fucking hell.
Anywho, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Don't get offended by that last comment. It was just a joke, seriously. People take everything so literal these days.
They really do.
Lighten up, you fucks. All right. Take it easy. We'll catch you all next episode. Hooroo.